has been out for a couple of days now, and since I've had the chance to properly test her out more extensively, I thought I'd deliver my more fleshed out thoughts on the character, evaluate whether my pre-release pros and cons were accurate or not, and give my opinion on where I think she currently stands in the meta. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. One of the first points of praise I gave the cat was that she appeared to be a crazy buffer. Yep, this essentially held true. The writing was in the wall the moment that we saw she could provide a 40% damage bonus buff for 20 seconds without backload. Kachina already proved how insanely valuable such a quality is, so she was guaranteed to have some value right from the beginning. Yet all that red shred she has really sets her apart from the drill kid. 36% at level 10 is no joke. That's only 4% less than 4-piece VV in exchange for a much longer uptime. It's also very accessible buffing. Apply your desired element, pop her skill, normal attack 2 times to get both the crystallized and red shred, then voila, you're sorted. It all feels very well tied together. Naturally, the buffing is strong. Kazuha and Kachina have proven the value of these buffs already. I don't think you need me to tell you how good red shred and damage bonus percent is. Another really neat thing about her damage bonus percent buff is that it's unconditional. Kazuha wants 1000 DM if he wants to buff your team by 40%, which can be hard to achieve while balancing adequate ER. Quite a few teams do want to use his burst, however, this doesn't really matter for some of the top teams that don't, such as Neuvillette and Linny teams. Those two could not care less about his burst, so you can go all in on EM. Xilonen can provide more than him with her R1 signature, however, as it allows her to provide a nifty amount of team-wide damage bonus percent. Though it's worth mentioning that Freedom Sworn has its own set of buffs. The DJ can use that weapon for said passive though, so that's not necessarily a Kazuha exclusive pro, meaning that you can expand her overall buffing profile. Since we're talking about the Windlad so much, why don't we address the fact that I said she'd rival Kazuha? Well, yes, pretty much. If you look at it in terms of raw buffing at C0R0, their buffs are basically equal, assuming that Kazuha has a high amount of EM and Xilonen has a level 10 skill. There are some differences if you hand them their SIGs, but generally speaking, they are super similar at lower investments. I consider this to be a good thing because you can never go wrong with having 2 Kazuha tier units on your account for different teams. Plus, they can work together, whether that be in the wild Celestia Killer Neuvillette team or in teams that look like this. For such a reason, the cat is not a Kazuha replacement. I've already made a more in-depth video exploring the topic, but a quick summary would be that at lower investments, they are essentially the same unit, but the DJ happens to have an excellent Navia synergy. We'll get onto that later. Whereas at higher investments, they begin to separate more, with the Wind Twink heading into Vape teams and Xilonen being the uncontested best installed support in Nervy teams, where they work together anyway, and Navia comps too, of course. So they separate a little more later on in their constellation lineup, otherwise they are pretty decent partners in crime. I look forward to seeing more chords utilize these two over time. She certainly rivals Kazuha and is better than him, but she is by no means a true replacement, because owning both is always going to be better for your account. Xilonen can heal, which equals fanfare, aka faster for arena buffing, but you'll usually have a healer in most of the teams that you slaughter into anyway. Either way, still thought that this was a neat bonus that she has over Kazuha. I mentioned this earlier briefly, but the Neuvillette Celestia Killer team is absolutely no joke. The heavens shall fear the absolute dismay and destruction that this lizard is capable of raining upon their institution, for that he is challenging the gods for their divine throne. The Hydro Dragon, crusher of all realms and worlds, through the buffing of his great retainers, the 3 legends, Farina, Kazuha, and Xilonen, shall conquer all lands, whether they be run by mortals or the divine. It's so over for every other DPS, dude. It doesn't matter who you are, Neuvillette is coming for you. Check under your bed tonight, you might find a Hydro Dragon waiting to go, settle down and let the mighty be humbled. Why is this team good, you may ask? It's incredibly simple. Easiest buttonhole DPS ever gets a ridiculous amount of high value buffs, which makes this stupidly easy playstyle of huge damage potential even more broken. Kachino of Cinder City was already cooking here, but all that additional red shred, run for the hills over DPS units, Neuvillette is is going to decimate you. If the world is ever ending, it'll probably be raining when the catastrophe happens. We'll all know who'll be responsible. Enough theatrics, we need to discuss the Navia synergy. As I suspected, the crystal shrapnel problem is very much a non-issue. Use Navia's burst later in the rotation and voila, you will have a sufficient amount of stacks to do a great amount of damage. She hits a lot harder with Xilonen. The upgrade was even more significant for the Spina's leader compared to other carries, except for the Chosen One, because she had no form of Geo-Res Shred in her teams before. Now that she has a comfortable source of it, you can only imagine how powerful she is now, which makes me super happy to see, as I always knew she had the potential to become one of the game's most high-ranking carries if she were to get the right buffs. Yes, the lack of off-field Geo application from Xilonen isn't exactly ideal, but as I said earlier, it's seriously not a deal breaker. You get way more damage with all that res shred and front-loaded damage bonus percent with 4 to 5 shrapnel stacks, as opposed to using Kachina while having a consistent 6. So yes, as I expected, Neuvillette is going to bring about the end of the world, and Navia has become the top-tier DPS that I always knew she could be. She was always great, but I'd say this is the hidden potential that we haven't been able to experience all along. As for the prospect of the cat having excellent Primogem-based investment, absolutely. Her Sig is wonderful, offering both her DPS and support playstyle some excellent buffs. It adds more value onto building def percent on her, while also adding more front-loaded damage bonus percent to her overall buffing profile. Plus, the current weapon banner is stellar for her. Both choices are very good for the DJ. Unfortunately, Uraku is more of a DPS Lonen option, though the point of them both synergizing with her excellently still stands. Yet, did you think we were done with Neuvillette yet? No, we are never done with him. Xilonen C2 looks pretty great, right? Unique buffs depending on the elemental composition of your team. The Geo one is pretty nifty for Navia's damage if I do say so myself. However, I'd like you to draw your attention to this one. Friendly reminder that the only other HP percent buffer that we currently have in the game is C4 Yalan. And now, there's also Xilonen C2. Hoyo knows that releasing such a buff into the wild will cause a nuclear bomb to unleash, but in this case, a nuclear laser. You see the gameplay footage in the background of this video, right? Yeah. C2 Xilonen plus Neuvillette is not a joke. It's a lovely C2 in general, but this level of performance from the Hydro Dragon is genuinely terrifying. Say goodbye to game balance, folks. I mentioned that the cat would also feature a DPS playstyle which wouldn't be as strong as her supportive one, but would still be pretty nice. I'll be honest, I don't like playing her as a DPS, it feels a bit clunky in my opinion. That doesn't make her a bad DPS, that's more so just my opinion on how it feels to use. Is it bad? Nah, it plays pretty much fine, exactly as you'd expect it to. A fine Geo DPS who can deal decent numbers. Run around Codex, stick Kachina on Cinder City, then you're good to go. If Kachina C4, even better, your cat's damage will be even greater. She pretty much runs the Navia plunge setup as her best installed DPS team. Obviously just using Navia is going to be stronger, but I presume that if you're playing her like this, that's because you want to see the DJ lay down the beat on her enemies personally. Of course, her C6 makes this playstyle a lot better, but that's a given. One con I mentioned is that she's not Kazuha's replacement for reasons that I've already mentioned, but this isn't a con. That's a good thing. Farina didn't kill Yalan, Arlecchino didn't kill Lenny. You know how it goes around these parts. The more good units you have, the better. They are equal in value with Xilonen being better on the whole, but not by some absurdly massive margin. The difference isn't significant enough to the point where Kazuha doesn't feel worth it anymore. So if you skipped one for the other, no problem. Both are great. And if you own both, heck yeah, even better. This isn't even a con. Screw it, this is officially a pro now, because it's so beneficial to have both on your account. Another con I mentioned was that her burst is pretty weak, as all it does is either heal for support Lonen or deal some geo damage for DPS Lonen. Honestly, kind of a stupid point. Since I'd rather the healing be there than not be there, it's very useful. More fanfare is always a plus, even if you already have a healer in the team. Sure, it's only single character, but that's fine considering how large the heal ticks are. Rotating through your teammates regularly should be fine. As for DPS Lonen, it deals damage, I don't see the negative here. Sure, it was a lost opportunity to offer some more direct buffing in her kit, but I'd say healing for the sake of fanfare is fine enough indirect buffing. She's broken as it is, though additional buffs in her burst might have pushed her further above Kazuha. Either way, a bit silly to regard her burst as a con. You could even argue that this is a nice thing, because it means none of her buffs are burst reliant, making them far more reliable. 4-piece Cinder City only asks for a crystallized proc, whereas her Red Shred is as simple as popping her skill, quickly doing 2 normal attacks, then swapping off. This is as quick as doing a regular EQ rotation on a support. Overall, a very cohesive kit in my opinion. Now for what we've all been waiting for, my opinion on Xilonen's current standing in the Genshin Impact meta. Simply put, she's a top-tier support character that's making waves in almost every team in the game, a genuine S-tier unit. With her powerful buffs and unique synergies, especially in Neuvillette and Navia teams, she stands out as a borderline essential asset. Her ability to provide a significant amount of damage bonus percent without backload, and near 4 VV level of Red Shred solidifies her role as one of Genshin's latest meta behemoths. While she doesn't completely replace Kazuha, her presence complements him beautifully. In lower investment setups, they provide comparable buffs, but as you invest more into Xilonen, her strengths become more pronounced, especially with her signature weapon and constellations. Plus, her potential as a DPS character shouldn't be totally overlooked. Although it may not be as busted as her support role, she can still contribute a meaningful amount of damage when built correctly. Her versatility makes her a valuable addition to any account roster. She is far from being just a fleeting new character trend. She's a formidable force that elevates both existing and emerging team comps. If you're looking to enhance your team's numbers up to the very top, investing in getting her is a decision you won't regret. Fantastic 10 out of 10 character. But she also enabled the end of the world, so maybe we'll regret praising her so much soon when there's no more Earth for us to play Genshin Impact on after Neuvillette has destroyed it. Overall, Xilonen is impressive, like really impressive. It's awesome that Hoyoverse came out with such a banger character, and if you care about meta, I really encourage pulling for her. Based freaking unit, man. I can see her being relevant for an incredibly long period of time from here on out. Yet what do you think about her? Let me know down below in the comments. Hopefully this video was able to tell you my more developed opinions on Xilonen now that we've had her out for a while. This has been Juice, signing out, and I find it hilarious that the cat's enabling Neuvillette to end the world when she doesn't even like water.